Great, Amor.
Hello.
So, we are going to talk about the shit show of French politics,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Fantastic.
I want to educate you on how bad French politics are.
Well, I've come a long way, but I definitely would like to hear more of these stories. And today we wanted to talk about this figure that you have as a president in France,
Yes.
President Macron.
Yes, and especially a big sore point of mine and many French friends is that perception of Emmanuel Macron abroad is still rather positive, with the image of a centrist progressive president that he had in 2017, which is not completely wrong, somehow, but which has largely changed nowadays. And I would like to set things a bit straight for whoever listens to this and might still be under this impression. And also to answer a very important question. Do you know what the most important question regarding President Macron is?
No.
All right. Does President Macron wears fake hair?
Yes, absolutely. I really want that was a plot twist. I didn't expect to get this bonus, and now this is the only thing that I'm here for. So we'll only touch that at the end of the session. No?
Okay, yes.
We have a sleeping baby, so this can explode any moment.
But we'll get there. So, first of all, understanding the presidency of Emmanuel Macron is understanding that he's a bit of an anomaly in the French politics, meaning that for decades we had alternating presidencies between the two big party blocs, which were the Socialist Party on the left and the Liberal Conservative Party on the right.
Yeah, the same in Spain. No,
Yeah.
we are within shifting, doing this alternating left right, nominal left. Right?
Yeah, and quite other countries as well. And in the 2017 election, there was some people even say that the stars aligned for Macron because the political situation was in complete upheaval. So in 2017, we were at the end of the presidency of François Hollande, which was elected mostly because French people hated President Sarkozy, his predecessor, and his presidency was very lackluster in that it marked the open shift of the Socialist Party towards a neoliberal Socialist Party.
Can you give me some examples of things that happened under Hollande that were especially riveting?
Oh yeah, so the most egregious was a new labor law that was instituted in 2016, and which Macron, a type of policies that Macron continued. He was actually a minister for economy under François Hollande.
Okay.
And it's a classic neoliberal labor law, meaning that there are facilities to lower salaries. There are facilities to lay off people without indemnities. There is a reduction of taxation of companies, and another example in France.
I guess it's a very classic post financial crisis kind of easing of any burden on the labor laws, with under the argument of that enabling more recovery of the hiring and a decrease of the unemployment. No?
Yeah, exactly. So, and actually, the abrogation of the 2016 labor law is part of the program of the current
abrogation. What does it mean?
Suppression.
Okay.
Of this law, it's part of the program of the left currently. So to say how bad this law is that they are promising to take it away if the left gets elected.
But before we get into the more Macron, wasn't he an investment banker before?
Yes. So his trajectory So he studied in the French National School of Administration, which is where all the high politicians study in France. And then so he was part of study commissions for the French government. Then for 2 years he was a banker for the Rothschild Bank, which is actually one of the reasons why it's also so popular with financial startup and professional sector. And then he was part of the government of François Hollande, first as a state secretary and then as a minister for economy. And while he was a minister of economy, he used this position to platform his future presidential campaign.
Great.
And so getting back to the very specific circumstances of 2017, so President Hollande was extremely unpopular and he decided not to run for re-election, which was a first. So it created this huge vacuum, and so things were opened, and there was also a huge polarization in this election because since President Hollande was not running for re-election, both the socialist and the conservative held primaries, which is not something common in French politics. It's very vertical. So usually you have the head of the party, who is going to be your candidate. But with political fragmentation, politics started doing primaries. And interestingly, the primaries in the Socialist Party, the winner was one of the most leftist candidates. And that was also unexpected because they were expecting a more centrist candidate, actually someone that you, as a Spanish might know, called Manuel Valls.
Fabulous.
Yeah, but he lost, and the more left.
Manuel Valls, just because he's not such a prominent figure in Spanish politics.
Explain why.
He also ran in Catalonia for I think in Barcelona itself.
Yeah, he tried to be mayor for Barcelona.
Mayor for Barcelona with
again.
Ciudadanos, and Ciudadanos was absolutely disgraced in those elections. So.
Yeah, but Manuel Valls is one of the most reviled political figure in France.
But we'll have another story about that.
Yes.
Right now, so if what I got when Macron first ran for presidency, I was picturing him as the promise of a pragmatic drive towards revisiting the different institutions and revisiting the efficiency of the institutions with a modern entrepreneurial eye, and trying to put some common sense and some, let's say, not to discard some of the sacred cows, let's say, of institutionalism. I know I've grown a lot. My ideas seem very naive to me now, looking with all the things that you've been sharing with me about Macron. But that's at least the picture that I had of him when he was first running as a candidate.
No, that's actually very true. He actually said, and that's a quote: "I am here to transform France, and I will do it no matter what, to whatever whatever rhythm I choose." Yes. That's a thing, and so getting back to what I was telling, when the socialist primary designated the most leftist candidate, a lot of socialists were unhappy with that and said, no, we're not going to support this guy, and this is what opened the path for Emmanuel Macron. And at first, when he created his movement, which is called En Marche, so going on at his initial, Emmanuel Macron En Marche. Which translates to on the way.
Wasn't it the France marching?
Yes, marching on, exactly.
Marching on?
Yeah, but it was chosen because it was his initials, so it was a brand recognition. So this is why it's called En Marche.
Nice.
And originally the socialist baron thought that En Marche would be some sort of satellite of the Socialist Party, and sort of that so they could keep their hand on it. And in this,
Yeah,
I think,
good luck with that.
yeah, they were very sorely mistaken. So, but that's the reason why Macron ran originally, because he was a complete unknown by then. He had been Minister for Economy, but it's not the most flashy position in the government. But yeah, that was his opening. But originally he was not considered a favorite. The big favorite was the candidate of the Conservative Party, because the Socialists had been in power. They had been generally reviled.
And Marine Le Pen was also quite strong at that time.
We'll talk about the Front National. But here and the French electorate tends to be rather right-leaning. So coming out of a reviled socialist presidency, it was considered that the Conservative candidate would have the better chance. And the Conservative candidate was someone called François Fillon, and interestingly, similarly to the Socialist Party, he was the most right-leaning candidate of the Conservative. It was not expected that he would win. People were expecting a more center-right liberal candidate, but it was the more right-leaning, and he was elected a lot thanks to the Catholic vote. He had the hardcore conservative Catholic vote, and that's what brought him up. But because of that, he was still considered to be a very serious.
But he had an scandal right by the end of the campaign,
exactly,
and that kind of vilified him and ruined all his chances.
Yeah, exactly. He still did 20% for the election. Okay. So considering how big the scandal was, it was still huge, but it was not enough.
What was the scandal? Give me a bit of
so
sauce.
So this scandal is extremely interesting. Long story short, it was discovered that he had employed his wife as a parliamentary assistant, in spite of the fact that she wasn't working for him at all.
No, classy.
She had also been employed by a millionaire friend of his for something like for a total of 200,000 euros, same for work that she did.
But that's not money, Amor. 200,000 euros. That was just.
But it was estimated that he embezzled from the parliament, where his wife was so-called employed, short of 1 million euros.
That's not money in these levels of power. It's just peanuts.
Yeah, well. François Fillon has a big-ass castle he's living in, and very interestingly, he's always saying, "Oh, part of my patrimony is this house that I bought in the countryside, and the house is a freaking castle, 3,000 square meters." So
you know how much does it cost to keep the grounds of that castle?
Well, obviously quite a lot. So the Conservative candidate was embroiled in this massive scandal. The case is still being judged, but in the first trial, so it's being appealed. But in the first trial, he was condemned to prison and almost to 1 million in fines. In fines. Yeah. So
good. So François Fillon out of the picture. So, that opened the room for Macron.
Yeah.
Macron wins the first round, or
yes. So
with Marine.
Yeah. So Macron manages to pushing himself to the first place, and in the second place was Marine Le Pen, and maybe some other time we'll discuss the far right in France, which has its own history.
And the third place was Mélenchon.
Yes, so the third place, the big
La France Insoumise.
The big surprise, was it was also a new formation at that time, and it was the big surprise, and
which is the equivalent to Podemos in Spain, or to
Mélenchon also took a lot of inspiration from Syriza in Greece. So the new radical.
The new left.
New radical left.
Well, let's stop there, because the radical left, it's pretty much a mainstream media kind of branding. I think
okay.
a new.
I didn't know.
I think if we can call it the new left, right? Okay. Because when the whole left has veered to the center right, yes. Radical is anything that tries to reclaim some of the tenets of social welfare and so on.
Yeah, absolutely, and I do hope some other time we can talk about my friend Jean-Luc Mélenchon. creator of La France Insoumise, because it's a very, very interesting story. But yeah, long story short, Macron managed to get to the first round facing Marine Le Pen, and he got a big turnout in the second round because people don't want to have the xenophobic far-right in power, so he won with 66% of votes in the second round. And what needs to be understood here is that Macron electorate at that time was a sort of motley of liberal right and left, but mostly electorates on the left, because he was still seen more or less as a socialist legacy, and he had this discourse in that I'm going to be pragmatic liberal economically, but progressive socially. So
and one of the
so he got quite a lot of leftist vote. It's very important to understand.
One of the topics that I remember back then that he had in his campaign, even in the English-speaking media that I could see, was the reform of the education system, right?
Yeah.
That was a big one on the spotlight in those elections, and he was really claiming what you were saying, that he will look into it and really refurbish the whole educational system, right?
Yeah, and something that's also very important to understand how he evolved after that is that the socialist candidate dropped at 6%. So it was a debacle for the old socialist, because part of the electorate went to La France Insoumise, so more on the left, and a lot of the socialist electorate went with Macron, because it seemed like he had also the better chance. He had a huge media coverage. One of the reasons for his success is that he got a lot of media attention.
Just to give a bit of context about the educational system or the institutional state, of some of the elements of the welfare system, or of the welfare system in France. For what I've gathered from you as a teacher, the educational system was rather robust, or at least had a robust development, and until the 2000s or something like that, and then it's been, let's say, cut piece, or at least put under more and more stress, and teachers has been with larger class sizes, less time to prepare, less time to and the frozen salaries, etc., to the point that a job that is relatively steady and that before was a decent job, or a decent middle class sort of job that could be aspirational, had become a job that it's very hard to fill, and that there's a shortage of teachers, even though it's a very vocational field.
Yeah, absolutely. That might necessitate a longer conversation, but long story short, yeah, the educational system in France has been extremely degraded.
But what I wanted is to give the context of some of the electorate were people with that sensibilities, like, please help us fix the education, and give us and give us back some of the dignity of this profession. Right?
Yeah, absolutely, but it's rather
but it's been
unfortunately the opposite.
What happened next will surprise you, no?
Yes, what happens next will surprise you, because so interestingly. So this is maybe one point to remind before we have a break, is that Emmanuel Macron was first elected by something that politist specialist Stefano Palomarini calls the bourgeois bloc. So that's very interesting. It's so in France we have this issue where the young people and the popular class don't vote that much. They have a lot of abstention. The classes who are the most mobilized to vote are the upper middle class and the retired people. And originally, again, in the old bi-party system, socialist and conservative, these were sort of trans-class coalitions. They had vote from popular classes, middle classes, upper classes. But with popular classes voting less and less, and some of the popular class vote going to the Front National, to the far right, those parties recentered their focus around the upper educated classes, because those were the classes that voted. And when Macron was elected, it was this group, the one who had the most to benefit from liberal policies, that voted for him. So the core electorate of Macron was what is now commonly designed as the bourgeois bloc. But then...
And he delivered to them, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll get more on that. But in the second round, it was also what is called the barrage vote. There is this expression in France, and in English it's going to sound very wrong, but people call themselves the beavers, because they are building a barrage against the far right, and they didn't necessarily want to vote Macron, but they didn't want to have the far right coming in power. And but very soon after he was elected. So Macron first said, I know that not everyone voted for my program, voted against the far right, but then very quickly he veered towards, I was elected by the people. So
to unite La France, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I am the catalyst, the lightning rod of La Francophonie.
Yes, but he very, very quickly that he was voted against Front National, and then said, I got the vote, so now I'm going to apply my program, and most notoriously, so in France, currently we have a parliamentary election right after the presidential election, and again, Macron was a relatively newcomer, and usually we have this sort of...
but his people, he managed to get a majority in the parliament with a recently formed wet clay kind of party, right?
Yes, absolutely. So that was also a good surprise, and I think here his group maneuvered pretty well. So in the parliamentary election, he managed to get an absolute majority because again it was a relatively unknown quantity, and there was what is called the honeymoon phase. So he managed to get a lot of parliament members elected, and he had an absolute majority. So summer of 2017, after the presidential and after the parliament election, basically he holds a lot of power, and he has an open boulevard to do politically what he wants.
But that's a lifetime ago, no? We're just actually at the time of recording, we're just coming off his second election.
Yes, and it's just
he was elected president for the second time, and this time he has been elected barely-ish. I mean, he got 55 against or 50 something against Marine.
Yeah, 58.
58%. But that was much different picture, and a lot of people, at least as far as I know, has really said anything but Macron in these elections, right?
Yes.
So what happened in the middle to...
So what happened? So we'll take a short break, and then I'll get to what happens and how it all went downhill from there.